Peace and blessings. It's March the 11th, Monday, the year 2019. If you have not seen the new video and song by Jordan Page about Schaefer Cox, I highly recommend you go watch it. It's called The Persecution of Schaefer Cox. You can search it on YouTube. Now, if you have a life, if you have more important things to do, this video may not be for you. I feel that I have to do it just to document, because people won't believe me if I just tell them. If I tell them that there are people like this that exist, that report me to Facebook, report me to YouTube, they have a obsession, they are infected with the victim mentality, and they have an obsession with taking down my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, they won't believe me. So I have to document this so later on I can refer them to this video. Now, even though Mary White is infected with the victim mentality, she loves persecuting men in cages, obviously. She loves to hear about the suffering of innocent men in cages, and she wants me to be silenced because I advocate, with our prison ministry. But I'm just going to document what she has posted on Facebook. She even bragged about reporting me as threatening, and let's read through it, and I'm just going to document it. You contacted Facebook reporting a threatening message. So she's telling Facebook that I'm very threatening. Who is threatening you? And I think her name is Mary White. But anyway, tell us what happened in your own words. This man, Rudy Davis, runs a YouTube channel and what he calls a prison ministry. What he does is communicate and campaign for convicted murderers. Almost all of the prisoners that I advocate for, at least most of them, there is no victim. She goes on to write, he conspires to harass and stalk the victims' families. No, I don't harass and stalk the victims' families. Usually they come to my channel and they harass and call the prisons where the prisoners are, and they harass the prisoners. Most of the prisoners that I advocate for don't even have any victims. He has many convicts he advocates for and spends his days on Facebook and YouTube inciting others to harass victims' families. Please stop him. Well, Mary, what I do with my time and how I choose to spend my time as far as advocating for innocent men and women that have been incarcerated by a criminal injustice system is my own business. And you have no right to stop me from advocating for them just because you don't like it. So Facebook replied back to her. Do we have a date on all this? All I have a time. I don't have a date. Anyway, your phone is down to 25%, Mary. You need to get your battery charged. So Facebook responds back to Mary. Hi, Mary. It looks like you're asking a question that we can't support from here, but that doesn't mean we can't help you. If you're trying to report something, please follow the directions in the link below. If you're looking for information about Facebook features and how to use them, please visit the Help Center. Thanks, Riley. So Riley kind of sidesteps her whole question. Hopefully Riley is smart enough to know that I'm not threatening anybody. With these Facebook millennials, you never know what they're thinking. So Mary's phone is still at 25%. She hasn't charged it yet. And she goes on to say, I sent this report out to the Tennessee Board of Parole and the Tipton County Jail. So Mary has decided she's going to write the Tennessee Board of Parole in order to ensure that Mike Parsons, who's never hurt anybody, stays in jail as long as possible and suffers the incarceration. So she doesn't mind the fact that Mike Parsons is going to jail, or possibly could be sent to jail and has been in jail. Mary wants Mike Parsons to stay longer in jail, and she's going to write the Tennessee Board of Parole to say negative things about Mike Parsons. I want to report the activities of prisoner Michael Wayne Parsons, currently incarcerated in the Tipton County Jail in Covington, Tennessee. Mr. Parsons is engaged with a man named Rudy Davis. I'm not engaged to Michael Parsons. I'm not a queer, Mary. We talk on the phone. He calls me from prison. Rudy Davis and Michael Wayne Parsons are conspiring to acquire the names and addresses of all citizens who submit a negative letter about Michael Wayne Parsons' parole. You know, Mary, I don't know for sure, but I suspect that if you're going to write a letter to the Board of Parole in Tennessee, that Michael Parsons has a right to read that letter, that he has a right to know what's being said about him and who's saying it. I think in our Constitution it has something to say about being able to face your accusers. You're not allowed, Mary, even though you may want to and you have a desire, you're not allowed to stand in the shadows anonymously and throw rocks in order to stone Stephen in the Bible. Remember when they stoned Stephen in Acts, the book of Acts? If you're going to stone somebody and you want them to painfully suffer in prison, you got to step out into the broad daylight, pick up a rock, and you got to throw it at their head. You can't throw a rock from the shadows. We're not that bad yet, Mary. So if you're going to stone and torture people in prison, and you're going to want to write a letter to Mike Parsons, about how bad he is, I think you got to identify yourself. I think you do, Mary. I don't think you can do it anonymously. They intend to use the information to harass and retaliate and cause and inflict bodily harm against anyone who sends a negative letter to the parole board. You know, Mary, there's a commandment, part of the 10 Commandments in the Bible. It says, "Thou shalt not bear false witness." You are infected with the victim mentality, and nowhere do you have any proof whatsoever that Mike Parsons and or I want to inflict bodily harm against you for writing a negative letter. Maybe we just want to know who you are, and maybe we want the world to know who you are, because making noise and shining light is a disinfectant for a toilet heart. I think you have a poopy heart, Mary. I think your heart is very similar to a septic tank, and that you have a poopy, dirty heart, and I think your heart needs to be cleansed. You go on to write, Mary, Rudy Davis is a monster, domestic terrorist with a following of like-minded simpletons and convicted felons. Rudy Davis runs Lone Star 1776 YouTube channel and IHateTheFBI.com hate sites. Rudy Davis actively seeks out the families of victims. Mary, there you go again. You're bearing false witness. I have never seeked out the victims of families. They have came to me and they have tried to harass the prisoners. I don't seek them out. They're the ones that initiated the harassment. I was the one who was offering to handle everything in a private way, but they chose not to be private. And that's only in one case, Mary. Most of the prisoners I deal with don't have any victims at all, and yet they're spending life in prison. And if you contrast that with Roy Oliver, who's a police officer that shot a teenager, a black teenager, in the head, Jordan Edwards, he only got 15 years in prison, Mary. But the men that I deal with, they're spending 30, 40 years in prison, and there's no victim. So you're lying, Mary. I do not actively seek out the families of the victims. You're absolutely a liar. And makes death threats against these poor families. Mary, you got a very poopy, dirty heart, and you're a liar. Do you know in Revelations, it says that all liars will go to hell and have a second death, and that will last for eternity. The eternal lake of fire, Mary. It's not good to lie about me like that. You say that I make death threats against the families. That's not happened one time, Mary. You're a big liar. Rudy Davis is banned from many prisons because he engages in criminal activities. You see how this gets started? They start off with Schaefer Cox with a small little ticket, and it grows into something else, and it grows into something else, and then they'll say there's a pattern of behavior here. But see, Mary, I'm not banned from those prisons because I did any criminal activity. I'm banned from those prisons because the wardens don't like me making noise and shining light about the fact that they murdered Robert David Neal in Terre Haute, Indiana, and Warden B. True at Marion, Illinois, knows that he's keeping an innocent man in prison, and he didn't like me making noise and shining light about Schaefer Cox, who's an innocent man, Mary. But you're lying again, Mary. Rudy Davis is banned from many prisons because he engages in criminal activities with incarcerated inmates. Rudy Davis supports cold-blooded, calculated murderers are justified by some sort of perverted religious philosophical belief in his screwed-up head. This video is from Rudy Davis from his Lone Star 1776 YouTube channel. Mike Parsons and Rudy Davis plot together to gather names and addresses of those who oppose the parole of Michael Wayne Parsons. You know, Mary, if you're going to throw stones at Mike Parsons, we want to know who you are. We want to know what you do for a living, and I want to know if you're getting paid by the government. Thank you for looking into this matter. And then Facebook replies back to Mary. We're sorry to hear about the problem you're experiencing. Unfortunately, we don't have control over content that's not posted on Facebook. We recommend contacting the website directly where the content is appearing. You can often find a website's contact information in their help center. You can also learn more about how to protect information you share on Facebook in the Safety Center. Thanks, Riley. And then Mary replied back, it's all over his Facebook. He uses Facebook to harass his victims of murders' families. And he does a prison ministry and praises it and supports convicted murderers. Look. Oh, my goodness. And then, anyway, Mary goes on to write that I call murderers and I stalk families and I call them political prisoners. And then Facebook writes her back, hi, and thanks for letting us know about this. While we can't help you with this issue here, we want to make sure that your report gets into the right hand. To do this, you can use the report near a link post. And then she says she's going to fill out the report. She says many people have filled out the report. Hi, Mary. We review reports carefully to make sure we take the correct action. We'll remove something from Facebook if it goes against our community standards. Please keep in mind that something you don't like on Facebook might not go against our community standards. Visit the Help Center. So Riley says, thanks for your understanding. And then Mary replies back to Riley, this isn't about me liking or not liking it, but okay. So Mary, I tell you what, Mary, I'll make a deal with you, Mary. You know, when you report me to get me silenced on Facebook, you're the coward. You're infected with a victim mentality. And Mary, what I'm going to suggest you do is if you think I'm really harassing victims' families, if you think I'm really issuing murderous death threats, if you think I'm really plotting to harass and inflict bodily harm, you've lied about me, Mary. You've lied about me in a report to Facebook. But if you think you're right, why don't you call the cops, Mary? And why don't you report this to the police? You know why I don't think you'll do that, Mary? Because you're not in trouble when you do a false report to Facebook. But if you call the cops, you know that I can get you for a false police report. And I can come back at you and hold you legally accountable for your lying. And Mary, if you do this, let's see what happens when you do that. But Mary, I think you're a coward and you have a poopy heart. And I think that justice will come down like a mighty river on your heart, not from me, Mary, but from God Almighty. You're a liar, and all liars go to hell, Mary.